Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Calder's Calling, AHL News Now's flagship podcast and your premier podcast destination for everything surrounding the American Hockey League. I'm Jay Forster. I'm joined today by Deana Weinheimer and Corey Swartz. Before we kick things off, if you aren't already subscribed to us on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, do it now. If you're currently watching on YouTube, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe so you can get every episode straight into your feed. I would also like to thank our show sponsor before we get started here, Document Doctors. While not on the ice, they can help you and your business optimize and increase your revenue and profits to a bigger slice. Check out documentdoctorsllc.com and don't forget to mention that AHL News Now sent you to them. So let's start off with a little bit of All-Star news, but not the All-Star news people are probably expecting. It was announced earlier this week / late last week that the 2025 AHL All-Star Classic is going to be in Coachella Valley, or Palm Springs, I guess, technically. It's going to be at the Acrisure Arena for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and it feels very soon to give them an All-Star game, considering it'll be in their, third overall season?
Yes.
But I don't hate it. More hockey in the desert is always a good thing. If it's anything like Seattle, then the fans will flock to it because it's new and shiny and exciting. I know that Corey is very upset that it's 2 West Coast All-Star games in a row instead of having one slightly nearer to him, but I think this will be a fun time.
I have to adjust my sleep schedule for another year in a row to stay up late, but it seems a little bit fitting to me because I've trained in the ways there, staying up late for all the Calder Cup Finals games out there. So good things tend to happen when I stay up late for games that happen in Coachella Valley. So I'm okay with it.
Well, I'm not going to complain about getting 2 warm All-Star games back to back. The only thing I will complain about is having to get the airfare from Central Ohio out to there. But other than that, I'm not really going to complain. Coachella Valley has just absolutely embraced that team, that league, or the league, I guess. And yeah, congratulations to them. I just find it funny that they announced next year's All-Star game before they announced this year's participants and before it even happens. So the AHL can be a bit of an enigma at sometimes, but yeah, super excited. All right. And then we do have a little bit of transaction news here. So the Bridgeport Islanders recently signed forward Carsen Twarynski to an American Hockey League contract for the remainder of the 2023-24 season. The forward was playing overseas in Vienna, the Ice League, after playing for Coachella Valley last season. And also on Thursday, there was a trade that happened. The Montreal Canadiens acquiring forward Philip Cederquist from the Buffalo Sabres for our absolute favorite return, future considerations. In 19 games for the Rochester Americans this season, Cederquist has tallied 1 goal and 3 assists, and this is his second pro season here in North America.
That is very much the Laval Rocket. All my friends are dead. .jpg. Everyone is injured in Laval right now. Sean Farrell is out. Gabriel Bork is out. A handful of other guys who I've completely forgotten, and they're all out semi-long term as well. So that is extremely, oh no, we don't have any bodies. Let's just trade nothing for a warm body, essentially. Let's talk about goalies, because you know me. You know I love to talk about goalies. I take any opportunity to talk about them. And one of my favorites, Milwaukee Admirals goalie Yaroslav Askarov, was named the Howie's Hockey Tape AHL Player of the Week for the period ending January 7th. Askarov posted back-to-back shutouts on Friday and Saturday, turning aside 56 shots in total. He must have heard that I said Jesper Wallstedt was the best goalie in the AHL and taken that personally. So hopefully hopefully he doesn't take it too personally, but still very good to see a very highly touted goalie prospect getting his flowers from the AHL. And from prospect to veterans, the Ontario Reign have signed goaltender Aaron Dell to an AHL contract for the remainder of the season. Phoenix Copley is out for the rest of the season, up with the Kings, so I assume David Rittich will not be going back down to Ontario. He will probably be hanging out with Cam Talbot for the remainder of the season. I like Aaron Dell a lot. He was a really good veteran for San Jose last year, and this seems like an underratedly good signing for Ontario, who, after a miserable season last year, seem to have pulled themselves out of it. And I don't know that they're going to challenge Calgary for the division lead, but they might challenge Calgary for most fun team. They are currently third in the standing, well, tied for second in the division with Tucson, who have been just doing the most recently. So really, really good signing for Ontario. And I'm happy for Aaron Dell. That's a dude that deserves to have a job in this league. I like Aaron Dell's game a lot. So good job, Ontario.
And we're going to move over to the North Division just for a moment here, with the Cleveland Monsters hosting their second ever University Hospital's Rainbow Babies and Children's Night this past Saturday, claiming a 6-5 win in overtime over Rochester. Now, those that have been around the American Hockey League for a little bit, or at least paid attention to the Monsters last year, might remember the jerseys from that night and how the Monsters players teamed up with children currently in the hospital at University Hospital, Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital, to kind of customize their own nameplates. They did something a little bit different this year, where they actually had a I Skate 4 patch that was custom designed by the children in conjunction with the players. So here you can see one of those custom nameplates. Whoever did this, it looks like Noah Stegman, had a really nice little graphic of the Monster logo there. There's a whole picture of the entire outfit. Addie and Owen Sillinger doing an amazing job to color coordinate there. And then we have one more there. It's just a nice touch. First of all, the jerseys are clean, crisp. I love it. They looked really good on the ice, but to also just have that partnership going once again, and to give these kids a creative outlet and to see their names, their artwork on the ice and in the photos was just fantastic. Great job again, Cleveland Monsters.
That's so cool. Well, turning to a little bit of a different kind of quick hit, the AHL announced that there were 2 games between the Bakersfield Condors and the San Diego Gulls that would be rescheduled due to a water main break at Pechanga Arena, home of the Gulls. And it's kind of an interesting thing because it's already kind of been a slow start to the season for the Bakersfield Condors in terms of games played. It's kind of interesting watching the disparity. They have played 10 less games than the leader in terms of games played in the Hershey Bears. They played 26 to Hershey's 36. So at some point here, Bakersfield is going to be playing a lot of hockey all at once here. It's kind of I don't remember ever seeing, quite a disparity quite in the same fashion as this one. So I thought that was an interesting little note. So of course, right when they start to get playing some games, they get some bad luck here with a water main break in a visiting arena. So moving towards the fun here, the fun part of the weekend, you know it, you love it. It's the Hershey Bears Teddy Bear Toss. Was this past Sunday. They exercised the demons a little bit here by scoring a goal. It was a little bit in doubt where there was some nervous times at Giant Center this past weekend, as it took until the second period for the Bears to get the fur flying. 74,599 teddy bears were thrown over the course of this game, thrown or donated, I should be noted. An interesting note, that is more than 10 times the amount of teddy bears that they had donated, just over a decade ago back in 2010, just to give you an idea of how incredibly this event has caught on, in Hershey. So we're gonna have a couple of clips here that we will show of it. First off, the goal here. Unlikely
Yeah.
goal scorer. If you're taking bets and scorers, Bogdan Trineyev might not have been at the top of your list here, but he comes in and scores a really great goal, kind of at a sharp angle. It's a little bit of a shocker here. If you had your money, I mean, I can tell you, I was taking bets on it over the preceding the action here, but you can see it's thankfully a little bit earlier on in the second period, thankfully. So they had a rule for this one. Instead of having furry fury like we saw last season, with them not scoring a goal at all, and some of the rules there, they changed the rules a little bit to follow some of what we've seen before, where regardless of what the score was, if the Bears scored or not, they were going to throw it at second intermission there. So ended up changing the rule, ended up working out that, despite the fact there was 20 minutes, it was looking a little dicey. The Bears did get that goal and had some absolutely great moments there. Surely you've seen many of them on social media if you're listening to us here. Some of the players jumping into these big piles of teddy bears. Some of the guys, it was the biggest piles I think I've seen, most of the time, seeing this event type of thing. Vinny Iorio jumping into the pile and, questioning how he was going to get back onto the ice and out of the piles. And, Joe Snively just absolutely disappearing into a pile by diving head first into it. And Deana, I think you're going to, tell us a little bit about what your favorite part of seeing some of these clips were.
Yeah, I will share some more of the clips here, especially the Vinny Iorio clips, but I just wanted to bring this up because Andy at This Pug Life, first of all, amazing username, was on Twitter, saw the initial tweet from the NHL. As they were watching the clip, they asked, did this person make it out? If you look very closely here on this screenshot, you will just see a random hand just coming up from behind the little, it looks like maybe like a Mickey Mouse dressed in a Santa cloak or coat there. And you see this guy back here, and there's another guy down here. They are just absolutely covered in teddy bears. So that was probably my question of the night. Oh, actually, I just now saw, look at this right down here. Ellen Crowther, EJC4990, says, this was me. I eventually made it out. It was a crazy time down there. So at least Ellen made it out. It looked like a really fun time. Still a bucket list game, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at Vinny Iorio and his escapades in the bear pile here.
One of the other funny things while that clip gets there is I believe Todd Nelson shared those concerns there as well, because in his post game they were asking him what he saw. He was standing on the bench for the entire time, and he goes, I saw there was looked like a lady who got buried in teddy bears over on the side. He's saying I don't know how they handled that and how she made it, but I hope she's okay.
So I absolutely love this clip here. So you see this huge teddy bear just fall headfirst down on the ice. And then here comes Vinny Iorio just absolutely flying in out of nowhere. Just dog piles right on the bear. And of course, that set off a huge avalanche of people deciding, hey, there's a player right there. How about we try to, bury him in some bears, which happened. And then, of course, his teammates coming to help him out here. And the Hershey Bears on Instagram saying, you've seen our guys jump in piles. Ever wonder how they get out? Spoiler, gracefully. You can see Vinny Iorio. He's there covered in bears. And he just says, looking a little dazed, how am I going to get out of here?
Sorry, Vincent, you live there now.
It was definitely
I do like the
else.
confirmation that hockey players are just essentially big dogs.
Yes.
They see a toy and they're like, oh, it's essentially, when dogs see big piles of leaves and they have to launch themselves into it, like that's hockey players with giant things of teddy bears.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to listen to this here real quick because this is just the best part of it all.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
This teddy bear film doesn't meet the expectations.
I've fallen and I can't
That
get
is,
up.
that is a man who had not considered the consequences of his actions. Sometimes you just let the intrusive thoughts win, you know?
Yes.
I would have done exactly the
Yes.
same thing.
I mean, isn't that kind of like dream item? Is just, hey, here is this huge pile of teddy bears, and I'm covered in, head to toe in like pads and safety gear. Let's just send it full send into a pile of 70-some thousand teddy bears. So
It's already fun enough to do that when even if you don't need an excuse to just, when you're covered in pads, just go and slide on the ice, like when it's freshly clean and stuff like that. I couldn't imagine doing that with teddy bears because it's just like Jay said, it's just like jumping into a pile of leaves. It's, you don't need an excuse for it, but it's amazing. So it was fun to watch that. Vinny Iorio is the perfect guy to have mic'd up for that. He is always just in a good mood. I don't think I've ever seen him not smiling before. So, except for maybe when he's in the middle of battling with somebody on the ice, possibly. But even then, I would still say it's an outside chance. So that was a really great event. Again, the Bears smashed their record for teddy bears thrown and collected there. They had some videos of them, sharing those teddy bears around with different charities in the area, which you love to see. The Hershey Bears Cares initiative has just been, so fantastic for the Bears, really kind of inspired of these, great charitable things that the Bears fans put on. Speaking of those Bears, they are the first team to hit the halfway mark of the season with that game on Sunday. They now boast a record of 29-7-0-0. Guys, where does the time go? I feel like we were just talking about, the season openers for the Bears. It was raising that Calder Cup banner and things like that. Suddenly, I know it's the Bears are a little bit ahead of everybody here, but suddenly we're talking about the halfway point. I'm just wondering where time has gone. It still feels like, we're still in the early stages, but here we are already discussing midpoints and all-star games.
time flies when you're having fun, I guess. But yeah, I can't believe we're in mid-January already, and it's still a lot more hockey to play.
Absolutely. And one last note before we move on here. Congrats to a friend of the show. You'll remember one of our guests we had earlier on this season, Nathan Walker, who signed a 2-year extension with the St. Louis Blues to remain in that organization, a 2-year, one-way contract. So congrats to him. It's great to see him succeeding up there. He went up to St. Louis to start the new year. New year, new him. He went out and scored a goal almost instantaneously. So he went up, got recalled, scored a goal, and signed a new contract. So it's been a pretty good belated holiday gift for him from the St. Louis Blues for sure. So you love to see it for a guest on the show, and we're just thankful we got to spend some time with him before he moved on.
100%. Happy 2024 to you, Nathan Walker.
So we had a lot of stuff to talk about in this episode, and then what happened was we got delayed recording, and then the AHL dropped their All-Star rosters. So we figured, hey, let's do the same. So we're going to talk about the All-Star break, or the All-Star game. The rosters, who was named, who we're excited about, who we're surprised by, any notable snubs, for example. I'm just going to start off with one before Deana gets to talk about him. I am so happy and excited for Jet Greaves, who, maybe of the 3 monsters that were named to the All-Star game, deserves this more than any of them. He has been phenomenal for Cleveland this season, and he's been keeping them in games that they have no business being in. And I think he is a huge, huge reason why they are at the top of the North. And Belleville has a 7-game win streak going right now, and they're still 9 points behind Cleveland. So I just want to, just off the top, I just wanted to give a shout out to Jet Greaves, who I love very much. And I'm very happy to see that the AHL is giving him the flowers he deserves.
100%. But before we talk more about Cleveland, because I could go on all day talking about the trio of players that they're sending, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Atlantic Division here. try that again. So Corey, I'm going to let you lead this off here with the Atlantic Division All-Stars. If you're on YouTube, you can see the roster right there, graphic coming courtesy of the American Hockey League. Just let us know your thoughts and maybe share with the listeners who they can expect to see on that Atlantic Division team being led by Todd Nelson, the head coach of the Hershey Bears.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go down the roster. It's 12 players, 10 skaters, 2 goaltenders here. So we have Ruslan Ishkahav from the Bridgeport Islanders, Lucas Carlson from the Charlotte Checkers, Mac Hollowell from the Hartford Wolfpack, Brennan Othman from the Hartford Wolfpack as well, 2 representatives from them, Ethan Frank from the Hershey Bears, Dylan McElrath, your playing captain, also from the Bears, Samu Tumala from the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, Georgi Merkulov from the Providence Bruins, Dylan Coughlin from the Springfield Thunderbirds, Adam Gaudette, also from those Thunderbirds, and in goal, you will have Yoel Blomqvist from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, as well as Clay Stevenson from the Hershey Bears. So we have, some good mixed representation here. Everyone gets one, as they say. We get one represented per team here. It's good to see there's a lot of variety in here. 2 rookie goaltenders in Stevenson and Blomqvist. A lot of young players here as well. As well as some veteran players mixed in on here. Guys, I do want to say I was very surprised in some of the picks for Hershey, namely the forwards, because, you could have fielded an entire Atlantic Division All-Star team. You could have fielded a Hershey Bears All-Star team, more or less, with the amount of snubs there. I was a little surprised. Not that I have any concerns with seeing Frank. He has certainly earned it, in my opinion, to go back to that place. But, he had some great picks there. Mike Scarbosa, who's the team leader in points. Joe Snively and Alex Limoges are 2 guys who I easily feel like could be in there. Pierre Dubé is a huge snub in my mind. Guy with 19 goals is not present for this team. And it just kind of speaks to, how much depth and variety of good options there are there. But, we saw with Frank, he won the fastest skater competition last year. He's going to, probably be in that event again if I had to wager a guess there. So it's good to see you get a good mix of some rookies. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Othman from the Hartford Wolfpack is one that's a really exciting young player. Just spent some time up in New York with the Rangers. Just a lot of, and, Tumala is another, underrated rookie pick, I think, from Lehigh Valley. So you're really getting that, best and brightest kind of element here with the Atlantic Division that I think is very underrated youthful group here amongst their peers. And, you got some wily veterans like McElrath that are, guys that paid their dues and deserve to be there for sure.
I feel so. The thing about the NHL All-Star Game is I feel like there's a lot of people that complain when, we have to have a player from every team, and that ultimately means that, like, a quote unquote bad player is going to make the cut. But I feel like that's not really the case with the AHL. I feel like all of these guys, like in the Atlantic Division especially, deserve to be there. There's no one. I'm looking at that list, and there's no one really that I'm like, well, I guess they had to pick a guy from Bridgeport,
Right. And I also wonder, like, when we're looking at some of these rosters now, it almost seems as if the coaches that choose this are almost trying to fill different roles for just to make the skills competition more exciting. Like, you need your super speedy guy, you need your hard hitter, you need 2 fun goaltenders, you need the accuracy guy. Part of me wonders if that's what some of these picks are. Not that they're not deserving, but back to Corey's point about Ethan Frank versus Mike Scarbosa. Like, they needed their little speedster to compete in that event.
Yeah, there's some guys there that, I think got snubbed that could, do a really good job there. Like Dubé is one. I was, at a Bears practice not too long ago, and I was watching him and Ethan Frank both just absolutely pick the corner with shots. They're both right-handed shooters, shooting from the left side. They're absolutely picking the top corners. So, I do think you had a lot of options here, but I do think that everyone that got in has their own, exciting element they bring there. And you have to with the, divisional setup. I think that is pretty unique the way the AHL set up, that they do have the games separated by divisions. You really get to see the cream of the crop, really, in this case here. You got some good guys from every team. And like, to, the point you guys are making earlier, there's no bad players here. There's no players where you're like, okay, well, they had to have, one guy from a team like Bridgeport. Like, a guy like Ishkahav, absolutely deserves to be there in my mind. And, it goes to another level to, speak to the parity in the AHL in terms of, each team having this element that makes them all worth watching in, their own way type of thing. You see a guy like Blomqvist who, if you were keeping up with all the content that we had on AHL News Now coming out of the, All-Star nominees, he got that nomination on his 22nd birthday. It was a heck of a present for him type of thing. So, everyone's got their own unique story. Like, Coughlin from the Thunderbirds is, wasn't even a guy who was on the radar to be there at the start of the season. He was with the Carolina organization and, got assigned there, and it has worked wonders, frankly. So it's great to see some of these things. And, that's just in one division. I can't wait to see some of the stories from the other three.
Before we move on to our next division of the All-Star Game, I want to talk to you guys about document doctors. Is your business growing beyond the four walls of your office? Because as businesses grow, so do the challenges of keeping people trained, safe, and supportive. Document Doctors, a proud sponsor of the Calder Calling podcast and AHL News Now, offers affordable solutions to help optimize your business and keep the good times rolling. They offer content-focused solutions such as training document creation, back-office process optimization, policy and procedure development, and much, much more. So support the podcast and AHL News Now by visiting them at documentdoctorsllc.com. And don't forget to mention us when talking to their team of contentologists. Shop and support small businesses today.
Speaking of, we're going to go ahead and move on to the North Division now. So in the North Division, starting off with the Belleville Senators, Angus Crookshank. Also, Max Gannett will be making the trip out to San Jose with the Belleville Senators. The Cleveland Monsters sending 3 representatives in addition to their head coach, Trent Vogelhuber, that will be mentoring, coaching the North All-Stars. So coming from the North Division, leading Cleveland Monsters are defenseman Jay Christensen, forward Trey Fix-Wolanski, and as Jay already alluded to earlier, Jet Greaves in net. From the Laval Rocket, Logan Mailloux, Yuri Kulik, fresh off of a bronze medal at the World Juniors, now gets to go represent his team, the Rochester Americans, as an American Hockey League All-Star. What an amazing last few weeks for that young man. Also from the Rochester Americans, joining his teammate in Kulik is Isaac Rosen. From the Syracuse Crunch, Gage Gonsalves. Dennis Hiddleby, we talked about him a few episodes ago. Upstart netminder from the Toronto Marlies will be joining his teammate Alex Steeves. And then rounding out the North Division team is Graham Clark, which I only know him as an absolute monsters killer. Every time they play Utica, Graham Clark just goes lights out. He's fantastic. So another pretty stacked group here. I know one of the picks might be a little bit controversial. Maybe a lot of bit controversial, depending on how much you keep up with different aspects of the sport, but we're not going to go over that. We're going to be more positive about this, but I actually had a chance to talk to Trey Fix-Wolanski and Jake Christensen earlier on, and they were just, of course, heaping praises of their teammates. But one thing that Jake Christensen really noted was that one of the best things about the entire weekend is, of course, seeing players from the other, not necessarily maybe the other division, because especially with the Cleveland Monsters, they spend a lot of time, seeing some a few opponents from the Central Division, a few from the Atlantic, but more of just seeing who is in the different conferences, because you never get a chance to really watch them play or spend time with them. So that's the chance for them to do that. But also one thing that he's really looking forward to, again, now this is his second straight All-Star nomination. He said, quote, to spend time now as teammates with those we are normally competing against within our division throughout the season is one of the highlights of the All-Star game. And then Trey Fix-Wolanski just went on and on about the team's success and how exciting it is for him to be able to share that with players that he's been around, for the last at least 2-3 seasons with Jake Christensen and Jack Reeves. And if you get a chance, go watch the clip on Twitter, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok of Trent Vogelhuber announcing the nominations at practice to the 3 players. It's just so heartwarming. Again, just a group of dogs, happy dogs, just all excited for everybody in their group. And yeah, it's a really, really exciting group coming out of the North Division. And that net pairing of Greaves and Hiddleby, that's going to be
a lot of fun. Very young duo.
Yes.
One more comment I want to make on the North Division is I didn't realize that Graham Clark had been named for the Utica Comets. Graham Clark, older brother of Brant Clark, who was the representative from the Ontario Reign. So we are going to get brothers at the All-Star game, which I do think is a lot of fun.
I did not know that they were brothers, and I love that for the storyline. I love that for them, just to spend some time together in such a fun environment.
That is really cool, because it was, I obviously don't get to watch the North Division quite as much as I do the Atlantic, but I do remember Graham Clark from his rookie season during the 2020-21 season, and being very impressed by him. It was the last year of the Binghamton Devils before they became the Utica Comets. And he was a guy I was like, had a feeling was going to be in this position at some point in his career. He was very solid for them back then and continues to be with the Utica Comets. So it's really great to see. That's a really great storyline to have going on for this year's All-Star event.
I literally just figured it out now when I was when I was looking at the names. I was like, oh, hey, I saw that name earlier today. He's Brant Clark's brother. Very, very fun. Let's go over to the Central Division. Because there's some names in here that I really want to highlight as well. First up, we've got Rocco Grimaldi from the Chicago Wolves. We've got Jonathan Berggren from the Grand Rapids Griffins and Simone Edvinsson from the Grand Rapids Griffins. Nick Patan from the Iowa Wild. Jesper Wallstedt of the Iowa Wild. Brad Lambert from the Manitoba Moose. Yaroslav Askarov from the Milwaukee Admirals. Spencer Stastny also from the Milwaukee Admirals. Ethan Del Mastro from the Rockford Ice Hogs, Matej Blumel from the Texas Stars, Maverick Bork from the Texas Stars, and finally Logan Stankoven also from the Texas Stars. So another division-leading team gets 3 people. I feel like the Central Division benefits from having fewer teams than everyone else, because I feel like there are a lot of doubles here, but also I'm looking at this like, who would I leave out? And I can't choose. So love Berggren and Edvinsson coming from Grand Rapids. I love Wallstedt and Askarov. That might be the best goalie tandem in the All-Star game, so watch out for that. Brad Lambert, I'm a huge fan of his. This might be the most fun roster of all 4 rosters. And I'm partial to the North Division because of the Monsters. The Pacific Division, obviously, I'm the most familiar with. But the Central Division might be the funnest, and they might be my pick to win the round robin tournament / championship that they're going to be doing on Monday in San Jose.
Now, Jay, I was thinking along the same line, so you must have been taking up space in my brain and just going, what is Deana going to say next? Because I was sitting here looking at the potential firepower between Grimaldi, the sweet Swedish meatball that is Jonathan Berggren, the sniping power and good defensive efforts of Simon Edvinsson, plus you've got the league's basically top scorers in Maverick Bork and Logan Stankoven, and then Yaroslav Askarov in net, not to mention Jesper Wallstedt. They're probably going to take it, depending on how much they how hard they go. And in the American Hockey League, they go hard on these round robin things because it's all about, of course, love of the game, but also putting on a good show. And they want that bragging right. So yeah, I think I agree with you here. This is the team to watch. Although again, I am partial to the North Division. It's just going to be a good round robin. You have to tune in.
The fun thing about the All-Star game is it's going to be good games. And I know everyone, people talk a lot about the 3-on-3 not being real hockey. I love 3-on-3. I think it's so much fun. I feel bad for the goalies, but yeah, I think the Central is definitely my pick, but other teams could surprise them. It's all about what happens on the day. And no matter what, I think people who are in San Jose that weekend are going to have a real good time.
Well, the one thing I love about this roster too is that, of course, I have to say, obviously, whoever picked these picks here obviously listens to the podcast, because I feel like we've talked about nearly everybody on this list here at length at points already this season. But it's I think the added layer to it is that you get teams like the Central and the Pacific that don't necessarily play, with some exceptions, of course, the Atlantic and the North Division type of thing. So you really get to see some matchups that you only really can dream of during the regular season, or up to the Calder Cup Finals, perhaps. So I do think it's really going to be interesting to see those kind of styles clash in this game as well. Because you guys were picking the Central Division here. They were obviously very loaded, but I'm like, some of the teams, I'm like, the Atlantic's not that bad. And I'm like, the Norths can't be that bad either. There's some fun names across the board. I really think it's anybody's game at this point. So I'm really excited. We haven't even talked about the Pacific yet, which is always arguably one of the most, well-contended and well-stocked divisions in the AHL.
And let's talk about some of the names on this list, because again, I know I've just said Central Division looks great, Atlantic Division looks great, North Division looks great, the Pacific Division not looking too shabby. Archie Baines from the Abbotsford Canucks. We've got Raphael Lavoie from the Bakersfield Condors, Matt Coronato and Dustin Wolf from the Calgary Wranglers. I know I just said that might be the best goalie tandem is the Central, but they're not too shabby in the Pacific either, with Dustin Wolf and his friend, who we'll get to in a minute. Riker Evans from Coachella Valley, Riley Tufte from Colorado Eagles, Adam Cracknell from the Henderson Silver Knights, Brent Clark from the Ontario Reign, Olin Zellweger from the San Diego Gulls, Daniil Gushin, my guy, from the San Jose Barracuda, and Dylan Genther and Matt Villalta from the Tucson Roadrunners. So again, looking at this list, I'm like, yeah, there's not a player on this list that doesn't deserve to be here. I think Baines is having a heck of a season. Coronato and Wolf are always in the mix for being, some of the best players in the league. Dustin Wolf, reigning AHL MVP, if I am not mistaken. Brent Clark is, I looked this up earlier. Brent Clark, I believe, is 9th in league scoring as a 20-year-old defenseman in his rookie season. He's leading the team in scoring. He's leading rookies in scoring across the league. He's 2nd in defensive scoring across the league. I love him. And he's doing such a good job of, because the Ontario is pretty good this year. So, they could have sent Samuel Fagemo. They could have sent TJ Tynan, who's, always having an all-star caliber season. And they didn't. They sent this young upstart who, I'm here for it. On top of the brother narrative, which is really fun, he might be the guy that I am the most excited to get to watch kind of more close up at the All-Star game. But, I've got to give credit to Daniil Gushin, leading the Barracuda in scoring. He was always going to be the pick for the Barracuda. I thought they might get lucky enough to get a second pick, even though the team's not very good, because they are the hosts, and the hosts usually get to have more than one. So disappointed not to see Ethan Cardwell, their own extremely good rookie, or Leon Gawanke, who has been, again, quietly excellent for this team. He is, I believe, fifth in league scoring for defensemen right now. So a little bit of a surprise not to see him. But if they had to choose between Gwanke and Gushin, like, I get it. It's going to be Gushin every single time.
Yeah, I think San Jose is probably just a victim of the fact that they are in the Pacific and it is such a large division and they only have so many spots open. Because I know in Laval last year they had multiple representatives because they weren't, the number one team in the division, I don't believe at that point. But just because it was the hometown crowd, they had more picks. And of course, the North is nowhere near as large as the Pacific, but
No,
I
the
saw
North is 7 teams.
yes.
The Pacific Division is 10, so there's 10 spots taken already, and then they have the next 2 spots, like the only 2 spots left, don't have to go to the best players probably, and so that's why I think Genther and Coronato got the call. But I'm gonna be over here and be quietly mad about Leon Gwanke not getting the All-Star nod that he probably deserves.
Well, you never know. If somebody can't go for whatever reason, maybe he gets the call.
He just might. I will cry. I'm like, I'm like, who do I replace on this list with Gwanke? I'm glad that I don't have to choose these lists because I would be like, oh, but this guy's really good, and this guy's really good as well, and this guy's really good as well. Oh, and this guy really deserves to go. So, I do want to give one final shout out to Adam Cracknell, who has been a topic of conversation on this podcast multiple times. If I am not mixing my guys up, it's very late here, so I apologize if I am. But am I correct in thinking he's the oldest player in the league?
If not, pretty darn close, I'm sure. And I'm sure whenever I look up
pretty sure that Cracknell is the oldest player in the league this season, and went to Henderson to be a good veteran guy to help out the younger guys, and he was like, well, actually, I'm not done being good at hockey yet, so I'm just gonna go ahead and casually he's second on the team in scoring right now. The only guy scoring more than him is Grigory Denisenko, who I believe is up with the Golden Knights at the minute. But Adam Cracknell, born in 1985. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that he is probably the oldest guy.
38 years old. And I just confirmed through a wonderful article that friend of the show, Patrick Williams, wrote that he is the oldest player, at least as of December 3rd, 2023.
Yeah. So that's a really fun story of a guy that could have gone to a team and just been, he could have done the Nick Foligno thing of be a good veteran, look after the babies and, bring leadership. And he was like, well, actually, what I'm going to do is score a bunch of goals and go to the All-Star game. So shout out to Adam Cracknell for refusing to go gently into that good night.
The one thing that's also worth noting about this list is that, and I kind of noticed it with the other 2, other 3 that we've looked at here so far, is that there's a really good mixture of players here. I mean, we touched on, some of these ones, and, just going off that, sort of age difference here is that you kind of have these 3 different great points of players. You have these fresh-faced, young kids that it's their first season and they're doing so well that they deserve to be showcased on such a platform. You have some of the second or third year guys that, they've either been here before, that's their first year doing it. Then you have some of these older veterans, Cracknell comes to mind, as well as, guys like Dylan McElrath, who's, a veteran guy, but a leadership kind of guy. You kind of have these players that fall into these, vastly different, roles and categories. And, it goes to show you how diverse a skill set, is appreciated in the American Hockey League, that we're seeing these kinds of variety picks here as well. So I think it's just going to add to what's going to be a really fun All-Star game, where it's going to be a lot of different great guys. And, virtually every game is going to be exciting. Every event's going to be exciting. There's no slouches in here by any stretch.
Can I just comment on how amazing the picture of Brandt Clarke is? I mean, all the pictures that the league chose for these graphics were good, but this one of the young Brandt Clarke just, almost like licking his lips in anticipation. It's like, it kind of just fits who he is as a player.
Just thinking about all of the assists he's going to get in this All-Star game.
Yes, it's perfect. I couldn't have done it better myself.
Before we go ahead and finish off the All-Star talk, I want to tell you guys about BetSmart. Sports betting has rapidly risen in popularity, and having multiple sportsbook accounts is the simplest way to maximize your profits. There's never been a better time to sign up. When you visit signupexpert.com/AHL, you'll be connected to all the sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. All of these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users, and when you register through our link, you will automatically receive the best offer at each one. When you're using multiple sportsbooks, you can ensure that you can always access the best available odds, which is the key to successful sports betting. If you want to take advantage of these benefits and support our podcast, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook at signupexpert.com/AHL. Must be 21 or over, only valid in US states and Canadian provinces where sports betting is legalized. Please gamble responsibly.
Any snubs that you can think of here?
I think I've covered my my snubs for this. I'm just gonna look at the. I'm just gonna go to ahlstats.com or whatever, real quick. Like I'm sure Corio mentioned already. Like Mike Scarbosa is 4th in league scoring, and didn't get the nod. I think you very well could have sent TJ Tynan for Ontario. I think the problem with Laval is that Mayoon would not have been my pick. However,
No.
everyone that they would have sent is injured. So like Joshua Waugh is out for 6 to 8 weeks, I believe. So that's the Laval pick that he really has to go somewhere else. I believe Gignac is also out injured. He's the 2nd highest scorer on that team. So it might literally just be a case of, well, everyone else they were going to send is hurt, so I guess we'll send Mayu. To Mayu's credit, he's having a very good season. Seems like he's figured out some of the things that he was struggling with in juniors. So like it's not like a completely unprecedented pick, but I was surprised that it was him until I realized that everyone in Laval was hurt. So not a snub, but I am sad that Joshua Waugh did not get his All-Star nod.
I'm glad you said something because I was about to go on a whole rant about why is Joshua Waugh not the pick for Laval and why is Logan Mailloux the pick? And I was
think it's because he only has one good arm at the minute. So.
I mean, that would definitely do something. Or say something for it, but that injury list is let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna look. Okay, so this list from Laval. So Sean Farrell, 6 to 8 weeks. Nathan Legare, 7 to 8 weeks. Gabriel Bork, indefinite. Brady Keeper, 3 months. And that's just that group. Let alone.
Yeah, it's been tough for Laval this season. They finally started winning a couple of games, and the hockey gods were like, "Well, we can't have that."
Yeah, okay, so that makes so much sense. So, okay, so maybe the pick isn't as controversial as I was going to initially think that it was, but yeah, I mean, that was the biggest snub on my mind. I mean, there's so many other good players that you could have just easily put people in, like you could have done a Pierre Dubé also for Hershey. He's up so high on the goal board. He's tied for 2nd right now. I mean, you could have easily had an Igor Afanasyev for Milwaukee or a Max McCormick for Coachella Valley. Just arms in air. It's the parody of the league. And
It's a really good problem to have, Oh no, we have too
yeah.
many good players. What are we gonna do?
Absolutely. There, some other picks, obviously I already went over like all the Hershey players that could be on there. One guy I didn't mention in that group was Chase Prisky, who I think is having a really like kind of underratedly good season with the Bears here. kind of in that reunion, coming back to the team that drafted him after all this time with inside the Washington organization. Another guy that I see, a couple guys, obviously the Phantoms only got one representative, and if you had to pick, it was probably going to be Tuamala just for, how great he is as a rookie. But, a couple guys on there, Cooper Marodi's one that's had a really good season, on a Phantoms team that's still, kind of trying to find their way here. Tanner Lazinski is always really good. Ollie Likesell is another one. And even a team like I was going to, pull up on Providence here. Of course, my computer here is kind of slowing on me a little bit. Like Fabian Lysell is another guy that probably, deserves a look there type of thing. Anthony Richard is doing really well for them. There seems to be at least, one or two guys, and, a lot of that's just the format, right? With the, lesser amounts of players per division to make up these lineups. You almost wish they could have like a second all-star, like backup team, to each list. But, how about a question here to, kind of put a cap on this perhaps, but if we could add one more player to the All-Star event, any one player, who would it be?
It's so hard to just say one because it's there's again so many great players, but I am probably going to go with Mike Sgarbossa out of Hershey. Corey, I'm probably taking yours, but for a guy that is fourth in the league in points and means so much to that team and has that kind of personality, like I'm all for the personality pick also for an all-star game. He would be my pick. Sorry if I took yours.
And that's a good one too, because I'm sorry, Jay. The one thing I want to add on Sgarbossa there is he was actually supposed to represent Hershey back in 2020, but injury actually prevented him from doing so. So it would have been like a nice little bit of redemption for him to maybe get that nod. And he's been good for the last few years.
And they left him out? No, that's not fair. Now I really want him in. Aw, now I really want him in. I am double downing on my pick.
I could be a homer here, and I really do think that Leon Gawanke is having an all-star season of being very, very good on a very, very bad Barracuda team. I am going to go with Joshua Waugh, though. I think he's neat. And like that's all I've got. I just think he's neat. And I would like him to get that nod. He's not going to get a call up to the Canadians anytime soon because they're letting him develop in the AHL the right way, which I do like, but I do think he should get some kind of acknowledgement for the kind of the bonkers rookie season that he is having.
I don't know what it is, but every time I hear you just say, I think that's, or he's neat, or that's neat, I just have this like boost to serotonin. That is just, I love it whenever you say that. I don't know why.
It's the Marge Simpson with the potato JP.
Yes!
I just think they're neat.
Yes!
And it lives inside my brain. But unfortunately, when I say that in real life, people don't understand. But I just think they're neat. Lives in my head.
That's where my mind went.
I'm glad you guys get it. Yeah.
For mine, 2024, and we're referencing The Simpsons. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Corey, who's your pick?
It's timeless, man. The Simpsons is timeless, man. You can reference that anytime, anywhere, honestly. For mine, I was going to be a little bit more of a homer. I actually didn't pick Mike Sgarbossa, which was a good one. But I stayed close to home. I think Pierre Dubé really deserves the look here. I mean, this is a guy who... He's still young. It's his second season. He's already obliterated his goal count from last season. He had 16 goals all year with the Laval Rocket. He's already rocketed his way to, 19 so far this season. And, it's been some big efforts. He, obviously is doing really well on a really good Hershey team. But I just had this itch to see him do an accuracy shooting competition because he is, there's a lot of times where, he's scored a few goals for the Bears. He had that one that was an unintentional trick shot where he, was on a breakaway, shot it over the net, missed, it hit the glass, bounced back, hit the goalie in the back of the leg and went in type of thing. He's been scoring goals all over the place, all kinds of different ways. I would just love to see him get a chance to, strut his stuff at the All-Star game in that respect. But again, Ethan Frank's a good pick. I wish that we could have all of the goalies. I'd love to see Hunter Shepard get a shot at that one,
Yes.
possibly. Again, there's going to be some snubs, right? It's good. It's just the way it works out. But obviously Clay Stevenson is definitely the the hot story there type of thing. But there are so many guys like Spencer Knight from Charlotte is one that comes to mind. Louis Domingue is having a really good season in Hartford. It's just a couple of guys from just the Atlantic that I can think of off the top of my head that are doing so well. So
yeah, Matt Sogard in Belleville was another option for me. When I rule the world, the All-Star game will be just all goalies. So I hope everyone's okay with that.
I'm
goalie skills of
goalie All-Star game.
Yes. Okay, so I will kind of throw in my own recommendation that we have a team that is just goalies. So we still get the forwards and all that.
So 3 teams of just players, just skaters, and 1 team of just goalies.
Yes.
See what happens. This
is
what
the chaos that I am here for.
The All-Star game.
Yes. Like, the world will be perfect.
Exactly. I think that's kind of all we've got for today. So that'll do it for this week's edition of Calder's Calling. If you'd like to check out our written coverage of the AHL, we are going to have a ton of All-Star content coming out over the next couple of weeks. Please check us out online at ahlnewsnow.com. You can follow us on Twitter at ahlnewsnow. Please also subscribe, rate our podcast, send us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen. Share it with your friends, family, neighbors, mailman, cousin's dog, anyone you think that likes hockey. And finally, we'd like to extend a final thank you to our sponsor, Document Doctors. Until next week, I hope your team wins, and we'll see you all on Wednesday of next week